They didn't bring my gavel, but I want to welcome everyone to the York County Workshop. What's today's date? February 11th, 2025. I want to welcome everyone here. One of the things that I do say at the outset is workshops are typically, there are occasions where we hear from this, but workshops are an opportunity for the council to get educated on items, and so it's not a public hearing or public forum. Anything that requires public hearings, folks are allowed to come out and speak out in the public forum session. But this is an opportunity for council to get educated. We appreciate having folks here to listen, and apologize that our backs are to you, but that's the way it's set up. So now that we have the meeting to order, we're just going to run straight into it. The first item is it looks like we're going to talk about the budget, compensation, and benefits.
Yes. Good evening, County Council. Thanks for being here tonight. This is round 2 of budget workshops. So this is our second workshop, and Lisa Davidson's here with me, our HR director. And so if you remember last month, I gave y'all something I'm calling budget guidelines. It's a very dry document. The drier, the better. But last month we talked about early revenues. So we outlined for y'all what our revenues look like the last 2 years and gave you major categories. And those pages, I'm not going to go through the whole document, were represented on pages 1 through 5. So since our last meeting, we added pages 6 through 9. And so what we're really trying to do in pages 6 through 9 is begin to outline to y'all the biggest pieces of the budget. And so tonight, we're going to talk about some of those pieces. So if you go to page 6, tonight we're talking about compensation and benefits. And if you think about our budget in FY25 for the general fund, our budget was $109 million. And of that, so in this year's budget, $109 million was related to compensation and benefits, which is 67.9% of the entire fund's budget, which was $160 million. Okay, so that's why compensation and benefits is such an important conversation. 67.9% of the general fund is made up of compensation and benefits. So those are what we call big rocks in the budget. So we're going to outline to y'all what that encompasses. And we want to thank y'all for being committed to our employees, providing competitive pay over the years and also competitive benefits. So what we want to do, though, for y'all is to help you understand everything that includes. That's what we're going to talk about tonight. In this document, it outlines by fund some of those totals over the past couple of years, and it maps out how we think about pay increases annually. Because what we're trying to do, once we've done a pay study, is maintain that pay structure and continue to recruit and retain great employees. So once you've built something, you want to maintain it, and that's what we're trying to do. We are paying competitive wages, we want to stay competitive, and we want to make sure we're filling our vacancies. So again, tonight we're going to talk about our current vacancies. We're going to talk about how it's going filling positions, and we're going to also share ways we think we can potentially improve benefits at a low cost. So on page 7 of the document, you'll see some of those other budget considerations related to benefits. You'll see what we've done historically in terms of adding positions, because that is a driver in total compensation and benefit costs. And then you'll see some averages related to vacancies at the bottom of page 7 by fund. And Lisa and I and our team, we're very excited that those vacancy percentages are improving. That's something we want to continue to see as we move forward. In the last 2 pages, 8 and 9, we map out other big driving pieces of the budget that are going to continue to be there. Other post-employment benefits. We've got fund transfers, and we've mapped out all the different fund transfers, and we can talk about that at a later date. And then we've got project capital type items, such as fleet and radio replacement programs, which we set money aside every year to make sure we can replace vehicles with current funding and radios when they need to be replaced. And then we map out some of the current capital projects. Any questions related to this document? Just want to continue to keep you all informed and have all the information in front of you, but not something that we have to go through in detail. Yeah.
One question, the radios, so
Mhm.
we went through the budget last year, we're paying an exorbitant amount, I thought, for the radios.
Yeah.
Are we reconsidering that contract and looking for a different vendor provider?
We are not at that point yet right now. That's something, we talked about that last year. When we get into that window, we will be evaluating that contract. Yes, sir.
So, yeah, quick question on that too. So under the, are we running these through procurement on these to taking in bids or when we look at these radios or purchase them?
It's a multi-year contract. I think it's a 5-7 year contract that we get into. And there's different options to go down. We have the path we chose, and I think, Lisa, this was Bruce Bryant was the sheriff, I believe, when we decided to go on this path. We're unique across the state with how we handle our radios. And when the appropriate time comes, I can promise you there will be a deep dive into that and to ensure that we're going down the right path for our citizens.
Yeah.
We do have an expensive plan. We're in it right now until we have an opportunity to get out of it, but I can promise you, we'll go through it and we'll look at the numbers and make sure that the right thing for the county is being done. That's something that, I think the Association of Counties, y'all talked to some of the different vendors out there.
Yeah.
There are the other options available now that weren't in the past, but that will be revisited.
And the technology we use for our system is an opportunity to evaluate as well. I know David's in the back, but that's something that he's already looking into.
And we're in a 5-year agreement with that.
I can't believe it's.
David, you want to?
No, so we own our own system. It's not necessarily an agreement, it's a service agreement. But at any time, we reserve the option to be able to move in a different direction. So it's something we're evaluating, but it would require a formal RFP process, so it's not anything that's imminently in front of us. It's part of probably a 3-year plan.
Okay. All right.
But it is exorbitant, but it's, before we make significant investments further into it, we'll evaluate to make sure that it's what's more feasible and if there's something that's probably better serving our needs.
Yeah. Okay, no, it's good. Thank you. Thanks, Dave. Appreciate y'all.
Any other questions? This is just a document we're going to keep updating for y'all because this is a way that I can keep you informed with the major pieces of the budget as we build up to that recommended budget in April.
I'm just sending a little love down the table. Tom.
That's great. We need love in here, so that's
That's right.
great. We'll take it.
He claims they ain't got no heart.
All right.
Anything
Anything else about this document? Okay. So building off the document, Lisa and I are going to focus a little bit on compensation and benefits tonight. The items we're going to discuss are the major drivers. So I forgot my stool, my 3-legged stool at home, okay? But I really want y'all, who's got a 3-legged stool at home? Anybody? Just me? Okay, someone's got something. Okay, so remember, there's 3 legs to that stool. There's not 2. So why is there that 3rd leg? Because if you only had 2, you'd be falling over. So I know some stools have 4 legs. I prefer a 3-stool leg stool. So think about that as we get into this. But when we think about compensation and benefits, and we think about recruiting and retaining the best employees, there's 3 things we need to consider. We need to consider pay, we need to consider benefits, and we need to consider retirement benefits. So when we think about our package, those are the 3 things we think about. We're going to unpack each of those tonight. This is a quick presentation, and we'll pause for any questions y'all have. But I think this will help us all think about ways we can continue to care for our employees, but also recruit the best employees. All right, with that, I'm going to hand it off to Lisa.
These are some averages that we put together for 2022 through 2024. As you can see, it varies depending upon general fund operations, the sheriff's department, all the other funds, which if you're curious to know which the other funds are, there's a note up there that explains all that, and the solicitor's office. On the right side are the number of employees in each of those groups at this time, so that you kind of know how big those groups are. But at least it shows that it's trending downward. It has been very high at different times, but over the last 3 years, it's at least trending downward, and that's what we want it to do.
And we think an important part of that trend where downward is y'all's commitment to continuing to give raises and think about employees as part of the budget process, and we appreciate that. And we're committed to continue to try to reduce this percentage.
Is there a reason that the solicitor fee is going up and the other ones are going down?
Great question, and we thought about putting an asterisk. a big part of that is because they have so few employees. And so when they do lose employees, you're gonna see a bigger jump. So that's the smallest amount of employees in one of those lines. So they got 92 employees compared to the other groups.
So how are you marketing these jobs? Like, do you have a recruitment firm that how are you putting that out?
No, so we put it all out on social media. We put it out through NeoGov system, which advertises in a lot of different places for us.
Okay.
But yes, sir, we get the word out in a lot of different ways.
Yep.
And if it's a director position or above, we're also going out to all different associations, and we do that for other positions too. So we've got a good sense on where to post jobs, that helps. And we've got a great HR team that's committed to doing that. So.
Thank you.
What this one shows is just for the general fund. It shows you the variances, the variables each month for those years. It's color coded. Again, it fluctuates. It goes up and down depending upon the time of year, depending upon a lot of variables. But overall, it is trending down.
We've got multiple charts for each of the funds and the groupings here, just for y'all's benefit, but we don't have to go into each of these for tonight, but you have it in your packet and you received that early as well from us. One of the things that is really important is we think about how we connect what we do for every employee to the strategic plan. So when y'all were speaking into the development of the strategic plan, you talked about the high performing organization goal, and y'all helped us develop what was included in that. And so we want to root to that goal tonight when we think about our employees, and we think about how do we make sure we have exceptional service. Well, we need to make sure we empower our employees to all be problem solvers and leaders. And part of that is making sure we can reward our employees, we can encourage them, but also retain them. So tonight, talking about these different legs of the stool, that's really where we connect to in the strategic plan when it comes to pay and benefits.
And Josh actually did request this picture of the stool, so just so y'all know,
Yeah.
that didn't come from me.
Not
That came from
cheesy,
Josh.
y'all know that.
The mission of HR is to be a strategic partner by providing HR programs that attract, retain, engage, and support a talented, skilled, and conscientious workforce. And as Josh mentioned, there's a three-prong approach to that, and that's the competitive compensation program, an attractive benefit package, and the retirement benefits that we provide.
And for us, when we think about investments in our employees, the opportunity is to think about all three legs, not just one. I think it's important. You can increase pay, but if you don't think about benefits, sometimes health insurance goes up so much that it eats up all of the pay increase. And I think that's why it's so important to think about these things individually.
And this was just a slide to remind you of our compensation history. We have consistently issued increases to our employees over the last 10 years, thanks to our council budgeting those increases for us. The increases have been due to the pay for performance merit increases, as well as redoing the class and comp plan every so often. The amount of merit increases are determined primarily by you guys.
So this is a great chart, and it shows y'all's commitment over the years to employees, and I'm thankful for that, and I know our management team is thankful for that. As you can see, the past few years, that average increase has been about 3.5%, starting 2 years ago. That's very much in line with what we're seeing now from our consultants and from the greater state associations. So you can see currently, as we begin to build the FY26 budget, which is in the budget guidelines and what we've been talking about the last couple meetings, we are still seeing in line with what we've done the last couple of years, which is between that 3 and 3.5%, with a shift in the pay plan in salary ranges of 1%. If you want to speak to kind of where that comes from.
Yes, sir. We've been trying to increase the salary ranges each year so that we don't have compression of the salaries between the existing and the new employees. And that's just part of the class and comp plan.
Do you have the scale for because it says 3 to 3.5 average, so what's the actual full range?
So in terms of,
and I guess, what's the number, I guess when you do your merit, you come up with a number, you're doing your performance. So,
If I can speak to that a little bit, something we established in my first budget, let's say the raise pulls 3.5%, 1% is gonna go to adjusting the scale. And if you score 3.0 on your evaluation, which basically means you're doing your job, you're going to get at least that base increase of 1%. But what happens is the reviewer, and I'll use one of my department's examples, there's 2 reviewers in there, and everybody reviews a little differently, so we don't try to pull them all together. But the pool will be divided up based off your salary, so everybody gets a fair slice, the reviewers to divide up. Your top performers, their raises have to be higher than your weaker performers. So what we set up back then was to try to incentivize and reward those top performers and also incentivize and motivate the bottom performers. And it's worked out very well. You know, I like to think we're a workplace that rewards hard work. And every one of those evaluations and raises is tied, they're tied together to make sure we're not flipping that. Took a couple of years for everybody to understand how that works. It also led to better evaluations as well, because those evaluations are meaningful. We do those in May, and they're tied to your raises. So when the viewers do the evaluations, they become much more meaningful because it directly impacts the bottom line of their employees. Does that answer that?
so you're arbitrarily, your scale is 1 to 5. 5 would give you a what
I think-
is it an arbitrary?
I'll say this, last year, I think myself and my direct reports, the range was from the minimum, 1%, I think 5-something%, something like that. So you create, by making it based, merit-based, there's a natural spread, not everybody gets a flat raise.
Right. That's what I'm asking for,
Yes,
is
sir.
the spread.
That's usually what you see, something in that range. It's not, everybody's a little different. Some reviewers, they like to see a little tighter. And, you know, some of our smaller departments, you got people all performing around the same range, that makes sense. We don't try to force a certain spread. We let the evaluators determine that.
Is there though, salary cap at a certain level once you get up to a certain, whatever, your merit, even though you get a top performer, you only get 2% based on the maximum amount you can get per position?
There's not a maximum amount of raise they can get, like Kevin says, it's that range that we use each year, but there is a maximum salary range for every position.
Right.
And if someone reaches the maximum of the salary range,
Mhm.
then what we do is we calculate what they would have gotten as a merit increase,
Mhm.
and they get a bonus of
Okay.
that amount. Our policy allows for that.
Okay, all right.
Josh, when we interviewed you, we talked about performance management metrics, and you were gonna implement those. Have those been implemented yet? So you're actually using performance metrics to determine what pay raises are gonna be?
So there's an initiative in the strategic plan for us to work on that.
Right.
It's not something we've done yet, but we are committed to making that happen. I think that's where we evaluate the entire performance management system. And so you can use performance management in 2 realms. One is related to employee reviews, and the other is data in terms of performance measures.
Right.
And I think what we're moving to is we're wanting to make sure we include data connected to the strategic plan, departmental strategic plans into employees' evaluations. But that will require us to update the employee evaluation tool. So Kevin talked a little bit about what that tool is like now. I think that is a multiple year endeavor to update that tool and make it more modern and relevant. I think what we would do then is tie it to data, but also work expectations that flow out of the strategic plan. And that is our intention. It's just not a this year priority in the strategic plan.
So really, probably step 1 was to get the entire staff, 1,300 or so employees, engaged in the process, so you can begin to evaluate them
That's
on
right.
what they're doing or not doing.
Yep.
That's good, thank you.
And one of the books I've talked to you all about this that we're using for our leadership development with our directors maps out a leadership philosophy that conceivably you can build into an evaluation tool. And those are job characteristics that are also leadership characteristics that you can quantify in evaluation tools. So part of what we need to do is develop professional development trainings and expectations of our employees, and then measure those, and then evaluate on those. And in theory, that's what we have right now, but they just need to be updated a little bit.
And just so you know, we did evaluate the whole appraisal system in 2019 when we was with a different software company. And we had all of our department directors contribute to that process so that we could establish certain appraisals for law enforcement personnel, another appraisal that had different types of questions for administrative clerical folks, another one for professional technicals. We've got about 5 different groups of types of appraisals that we're using now. This is our list of full-time employee benefits. Most of you, I think, are very aware of these, but should I go through the whole list?
Just walk through it real quick.
The PB insurance benefits include the medical, dental, vision, and long-term disability and optional life insurance. York County pays about 80% of the total medical premiums, which means the employee's paying about 20%. We have access to medical spending accounts, dependent care spending, and health savings accounts. Annual leave and sick leave, full-time employees earn 8 hours per month. We have a sick leave bank that allows employees, if they've been seriously ill and have used up all of their leave, they can participate in the sick leave bank and then get some more leave to help them if they're having some kind of serious illness. We've got 11 regular holidays, 3 optional holidays. We have access to the South Carolina Deferred Compensation Plan that's administered by Empower Retirement. We have Roth and pre-tax available accounts. It's up to the employee what they choose. We have an employee assistance program through a company called My Group that provides counseling, legal, and financial advice. And we also have some continuing education incentives.
I think you answered this before, I can't remember your response, but you do have your HSA up there. Okay. All right.
These are the same benefits that are offered to us.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Your annual leave, is there a scale to that, like after 10 years? I think I read that
10
in the
years
thing.
continuous governmental service, then they draw 10 hours per month instead of 8. And once they reach 20-year service, they draw 12 hours per month.
Yeah, just tying this back to the budget guidelines document, if you go to page 6, you'll see some of the costs related to these benefits. And that's why I think it's important when we're talking with employees as a leadership team, we're connecting, the benefits to the costs and helping our employees see that we're really contributing a lot to them beyond compensation, which is important. And so I think the benefit package is competitive. In terms of expenditures, it's a sizable piece of our budget, but it's a commitment that y'all made to our employees, and we're appreciative of that. So we wanted to remind you all of those pieces, and we've mapped those out on page 6. In terms of additional benefits, one of the things that Lisa and I have talked a lot about is how do we, as a leadership team, engage with our employees, over 1,300, in a way that they feel comfortable sharing ideas with us in terms of the needs they see. And so one of the things we're doing in terms of our strategic plan is we're going to be having meetings with employees to hear from them in terms of feedback related to the benefits package, compensation. I like to have meetings with employees where they can just ask me anything. Now that has to be a small group of employees and they have to feel comfortable, but a lot of times when you have those meetings, where it goes is compensation and benefits, and we have those opportunities to learn what they see are important. This year, what you're seeing are some ideas that are low cost, but I think they would have high impact in terms of employees appreciating this commitment. The 3 ideas here really are about just giving more leave opportunities to our employees. Right now, we don't have bereavement leave, so if there's a death in your family, you're taking a different type of leave. This is a very standard type of leave, and I think it would be meaningful for us to show that commitment to employees. In terms of parental leave, most of our competitors offer this, and this would be an opportunity for us to give that designation and show our support of our employees when they're either having a child or adopting. And then in terms of the sick leave bank, Lisa did mention that we have one, but there's an opportunity to give some flexibility there and adjust it. I don't know if you want to speak to
Yeah,
that.
currently the sick leave bank policy only applies to the employee's illness. And it's rather healthy. We've had a lot of people join. We've got a lot of hours in that. So we're hoping maybe we could consider opening it up so that employees could use it if they have a serious situation with a spouse or a child.
So these are 3 ideas that we've had as a team. I wanted to bring those up to you early in the budget process. They're not huge budget asks, but it's an example. every year, this time of year, we want to have a conversation related to benefits with y'all, to share ideas we have for the upcoming budget, to get y'all's feedback on them. And these are some items that I think would be, low cost but high reward type items.
Josh, does the state, I can't remember, but does the state determine how we set up sick leave, paid time off, and vacation? So we don't have the discretion to say, we're gonna give you a pool of hours, and you don't need to tell us it's sick or not. You have a pool of hours, and you can use your pool of hours. Can we do that?
We could, the only issue we have is anyone hired before 2012 still gets credit when they retire for so much vacation leave or so much sick leave for their retirement benefit. That's gonna gradually go away because employees are not gonna be hired before that date. Because if you were hired after that date, you don't get any credit for that. But because of the fact that that is still an ability to have that benefit when you retire, we haven't wanted to do like PTO. Because you want to make sure the employees get every benefit they can when they retire.
Okay, thank you.
Which is why we split it up.
So, but with that change though, currently, can they carry over at this point? I mean, new hires, if they didn't get all the vacation 1 year, can they still carry over? Okay.
All right, so we talked about last budget year.
Yeah, so, yeah.
Yeah, that was a conversation earlier when I got here.
Yeah, yeah.
I recommend the bereavement, we've got it, or I've got it, and it's good for the employees to be able to use and have that ability. We have 3, I think, for immediate family, and then 1 day for aunts, uncles, extended family thing, and then sick leave and vacation. I don't recommend combining them together. Don't do it. It's just, somebody's going to end up losing some benefit out of it.
The only reason we did it was it takes, you don't have to say you're sick, you just take the time. Whether you're sick or you're not sick.
But
The
it's,
severity of sickness.
so if you've got all that, I don't know how much y'all get, we get 3 weeks of each, so that's 6 weeks a year. You end up with people taking 6 weeks off, whereas you can regulate the sick time a little bit more. So you'll get your vacation, you'll take your 3 weeks of vacation, you won't take the full 3 weeks of sick.
Well, there's actually a pool of hours. There's a pool of hours for sick, and it's a generous benefit.
Yeah, right now our maximum sick leave is 1,440 hours,
Yes.
which is a lot.
Yeah, that's why, because I know with the discussion we had
6 months.
before, I thought,
80 hours in a work week.
Right,
I mean, you
yeah.
consider half of it.
but there was discussion.
But when you need it, you need it.
If I can have a day off.
Right.
We don't have a lot of employees get to
Yeah.
that point of having that much, but they do have that
Right.
potential.
But there was a, yeah.
State retirement system, I'm not gonna go through each little piece. At the same time, York County contributes 18.56% to the employee's retirement account. The employee contributes 9%. If they're in police retirement, county contributes 21.24%, and the employee contributes 9.75%. The one other good benefit through the state retirement, other than building your retirement benefit for later, is the fact that you have a death benefit that York County provides for them through the retirement system. Of once they've been in the system for 1 year, whomever they list as a beneficiary would get a year of their salary as a death benefit. This slide just gives you the basics of your eligibility rules through state retirement. It is very different for anyone that was hired before July 1 of 2012 versus anyone hired after that. If you were hired before July of 2012, you can retire at age 65 or 62 or 60. Or you can retire with 28 years service as long as you've got 5 years creditable service. If you were hired after 2012 for regular retirement, you've got to have age and service years equal 90 or age 60 with at least 8 years of service. The police retirement rules are just a little bit different. They're still easier to meet that eligibility if you were hired before 2012. The regular retirement, 25 years service credit, 5 years earned service, or age 55 or older with at least 5 years of service in police retirement. If you were hired after 2012, you can do 27 years of service or age 55 or older with at least 8 years of service. So it's become a little bit more difficult for employees to be eligible to retire just based on the rules of state retirement.
And then lastly, we have gotten this question from some council members. I know Bump asked me this recently. It's not here tonight, but here's some of the data in terms of current retirees. If you want to speak to that.
Yes, so this is just some statistics over the retirees that we have on our retiree health insurance plan right now. Plus, it gives you a general idea of how many employees that were actually hired before October of 2008 that could potentially be eligible for that benefit.
Lisa, do police and fire get additional life insurance coverage, guarantee issue life insurance coverage?
Active, yes. Retiree, no, sir, I don't think so. I think they get the flat 2, 4, 6,000, just like anyone else.
Okay.
Can you help me understand why there would be 232 people that would, no, that's not the right question. Post 65 retirees, so why would there be 64 people that would still be enrolled in the health insurance? Why wouldn't they go to the optional Medicare supplement? Is it because they haven't?
It's a lot more economical to go to the other plan, but we have some of the retirees that are just so determined they do not want to leave PEBA that they pay additional cost in order to stay on PEBA.
Is there a reason, does it have to do with, spouses too, or is that connected at all, or?
I don't know that it's really got to do with that as much as it is, we've got a number of them that, I think the stories that I've heard are retirees that have a lot of serious illnesses
Mhm.
and have been treated for numerous things over the years, and they're concerned over the optional plan, what could or could not happen to it to pay for the things that they've been dealing with, or may all at once find out they've got another serious issue, whereas PEBA, they've just been, it's comfortable, they rely on it, they believe in it.
Lisa, you're asking a good question, Christie. The law just changed on Part D,
Mhm.
so now Medicare Part D prescription benefit has a cap of $2,000, and depending on what plan you're enrolled in Medicare, your GAP contract has a $240 deductible. Might be a good time to educate those 64 on the value of going to Medicare, not only from a premium perspective, but a max out-of-pocket perspective.
And that's
The cap
something,
on
if they
prescriptions-
choose to, we've got a company we work with,
Yeah.
and if they choose to review it, they'll go over it with them, and if they choose to move even mid-year, they can.
Yeah, that's the gentleman that came to our committee meeting last year, so I would suggest that he actually either come in and meet with them together as a group, or together as a group at a virtual meeting, to educate them on what their options are, because that could be significant to them individually.
Do they offer a GAP program? I mean, the state, is like,
They offer a Medicare supplement.
they do offer that GAP.
And just tying this slide to the document, the budget guidelines on page 8, the other post-employment benefits, what we've said we would provide to retirees is a driver of costs as well after they retire. So I just wanted to map out all those pieces in terms of compensation, benefits, and retirement that are currently in this current budget, but also will be major pieces in the next year's budget as well. Any questions for Lisa and I or Kevin? This is the last slide of this presentation before we switch topics.
I know that there's already in plans for a comprehensive review of the HR policy manual. That's in y'all's queue and that's underway?
Yep, and our county attorney, Michael Kendrick, can help speak to that as well, but we've engaged with an outside counsel to review the entire policy. They're just starting that work, so I don't know if Michael wants to share a timeline, but we're doing that, we're working on it.
It is underway. I don't have a specific timeline. We'll certainly get one and update council with that projection.
But I appreciate council's willingness for us to review the entire policy. I think anytime you're looking at a policy, it's best not to look at pieces, but let's take a look at the whole thing and figure out how we update it in a way that makes sense. And so when we have something to report, we'll bring it back to you all to share.
Any other questions before we move on to the next item? All right, the next item is the introduction to impact fees.
I'll make my way
Here we go. All right, thanks.
All right, y'all, so we want to thank y'all. One of the things y'all brought up, in I think it was the fall, was the desire to have a session like tonight, which is an introduction to impact fees. So obviously our friends from Fort Miller are here, we're thankful for y'all. But coming in March will be conversations about the Fort Mill impact fees. So we wanted to provide y'all tonight just an update on the process, how impact fees happen, what the state statute says, and the different variations of this, to make sure to answer any questions y'all had in advance of Fort Mill's impact fee conversations in March. So with that, I'm going to hand off to our plan director, Jonathan Cuomo.
All right, so this is kind of a 30,000-foot view of impact fees. Just wanted to go over the Impact Fee Act in South Carolina for you to get a general understanding of what it enables counties to do, the type of facilities that could have an impact fee. And we do have in the strategic plan to evaluate impact fees on other types of facilities. And I just wanted to point out the process is the same, no matter what the facility might be. So we've already adopted a couple of impact fees for school districts. I'll have a chance to reevaluate the Fort Mill School District impact fee in March. But the act does allow for these 11 facilities, the public education facilities being the only impact fee the county has currently. But there are other facilities, water, parks, things that you might expect that you could collect an impact fee for. So that's just for future information. So the highlights of the act, you can only collect an impact fee if you are a county or a municipality. So that's why the school district is having to come forward to y'all to ask for an impact fee, because they're not empowered to collect it on their own. It needs to have a capital improvements plan. So you can't just say we want to collect money to build a park someday or a library someday, and we're just going to collect it until we feel like we have enough. You have to have a capital improvements plan that's detailed, that's got items on it that you're looking to fund with the fee. And the act prescribes how you calculate the fee, so it has to be based on several factors. And I'll just point out that you have now a paper copy of the latest study that includes the capital improvements plan for the Fort Mill School District. So up to the March meeting, take a look through these. We're not going to go into this tonight, but if you have questions, you can send me those questions ahead of time. I'm happy to forward those on to the district so they come armed with answers at the public hearing on March 3rd. But of course, up to through the public hearing and 3 readings of council, any questions that pop up, you can feel free to ask the district those questions, and they'll have their consultant on hand at the public hearing, certainly, to answer any specific questions you might have about the study or the CIP that's included in it. So that maximum fee, and there is a maximum fee, you don't necessarily have to adopt a maximum fee, but the maximum fee is calculated on those items that you have programmed in your CIP, what your established levels of service are, and a proportionate shared impact analysis. So your proportionate share, the impact of a development is going to be based on what your established levels of service are. So giving the school example, if you have a level of service that's based on the number of students per classroom, and then that translates into the cost of acquiring land and the cost of providing a seat in the school, all that translates into a proportionate shared impact analysis. So if I'm building a 50-home subdivision, that's a much different impact if I'm building a 1,000-home subdivision, right? So you want to make sure that the fee is assessed based on a proportionate share. And then the other component of it is credits, offsets, and other funding sources. So you don't want to double dip. So the Impact Fee Act accounts for that. So you need to credit those things back into a calculation. It requires a procedures ordinance, which we have. It exempts specific structures, and a very easy example to explain is if your house burns down and you want to build it and replace it, we're not going to charge you another impact fee for replacing your home. Same thing for a mobile home that's on a lot, moves out, another one moves in, you're not going to charge an impact fee because there was always a mobile home there. Same principle. Perhaps lesser known is projects that have affordable housing are exempt from paying that impact fee. That's not come up since we've had impact fees, but the potential is out there, and I'm sure there's a worthy project that might take advantage of that exemption there.
So, quick question.
Sure.
55 and older though, too, are exempt.
Yep, they have, and that's specific to York County, and I'll get to that in the next slide. But another thing that the impact fee allows for, which hasn't come up yet, but it is something that is an abilities, it allows for, once you've established a fee, a developer can negotiate with the county to either establish a lump sum payment when they go in, or offer to construct facilities. So they'll have to provide the analysis to make sure that they're at least meeting what their proportionate share of the impact is, but it does allow the county to make those per project negotiations if that's preferred.
Mm-hmm.
So the York County impact fee ordinances, so we have our procedures ordinance, and Tom, as you mentioned, that does have the waivers for retiree housing, and that's based on the HUD standard. So whether it's a 62 plus community, it's a 55 plus community with age restricted covenants and restrictions placed on it. Both of those have waiver opportunities, so we do get a bunch of those. We do have a lot of retiree communities in the county. The Fort Mill School District Public Education Facilities Impact Fee is one that we have on the books. So we had one early in '96, had a significant update in 2018, a slight amendment in 2022, and here in 2025. There's currently a sunset on that in 25, so that's why the school district is coming forward to update that fee. So currently, the projects that are listed in their CIP, the impact fee, those fees that are being collected now are for the Catawba Ridge High School, that's already been developed, and elementary schools numbers 10 and 11, and middle school number 6.
Well, I mean, you look at growth pays for growth, right? You know, and you look at the value this is brought back in order to cover the cost, literally covering the cost of the middle school. I mean, the opportunity here, I mean, looking at this, it looks, basically they kept the same formula, but the cost of building a school has gone up, and all that gets factored into when you look at these things. But the dynamics behind this and the impact of Act 388 on businesses and residents, this is a tax break for existing residents and businesses, which, again, it played out well last time, and again, I think it's a great opportunity to save taxpayers money. Yeah.
The other items in there are land acquisitions, so not the facilities quite yet, but an elementary school site, a middle school site, and a flex combo site for multiple facilities. We also have the Clover School District, which added their own public education facilities impact fee and became effective in 2021. So you can see I've highlighted in blue, that's due to be updated in 2026, and I'll get to the procedures in a second. But their items that the impact fee is funding is elementary school number 8, high school number 2. So here's the adoption process, and I've highlighted in black, that's where we are currently. So the Planning Commission has already made a recommendation, so that'll come forward to you all, and the next step is to go into council reading, so that's the March 3rd is the first of those. But it started back in the summer. You all asked the Planning Commission through a resolution to initiate the studies through the school district's consultant. So that study has been done, that's here with the CIP included. We now have a PC recommendation through their own resolution. We go into 3 readings of council, ultimately into adoption. And then the statute, it's a little bit worded a little bit vague, but these impact fees are to be updated on the same cycle as your comprehensive plan. So that doesn't literally mean on the same date, but on the 5-year update cycle. But you do need to also, by the statute, have a termination written in. So whether that's by a date certain or collecting a certain amount of fees, whatever the construction of that termination is, it needs to be included in there. So you might keep hitting this 5-year cycle, or you might have a termination that hits before you have an update. So any questions on the adoption process? The last component of this with the county is fee collection. As I said earlier, only counties and municipalities can collect the fee. So the school district encompasses more than just unincorporated York County, right? So that's why an IGA is needed between the county and the school district, and the county and the municipalities to make sure that we're able to collect those funds on behalf of the school district. So the building permit is when the applicant pays that fee. So whether they're coming to our offices, or they're going to Fort Mills or DEK's, they can't get their building permit to start work until they pay that impact fee.
I'm just gonna piggyback what Jonathan's talking about. Those fees are paid in the planning department. The planning department deposits those daily. Weekly, the finance department sweeps those funds into another account that we track and monitor. The numbers down at the bottom, that's on the current fee. 73 million collected with $7 million in interest earned. A lot of money's been generated through that. The distribution of the fees, okay? The school districts drive when these get distributed. Okay? They will reach out to us. Clover has not yet received distribution, but Fort Mill has. They'll submit the documentation to the county. We'll review the documentation and then remit the funds to the school district. To date, we've paid $63 million, and I think that's the bulk of the that middle school you referenced at the time.
Yep.
But the county's really very straightforward. We just try to keep track of it. We do a pretty good job of that, I believe. And the interest income has been a wonderful gift to the county and to the school district on those funds. So that is it. Questions?
Any questions?
Any questions from council? In the process. The schedule again is March 3rd is first reading. Is that public hearing as well, or, okay? And then it's just consecutive after that. All right.
Sounds good.
No other questions?
Yeah, I'll ask a quick question. So we talked about adequate public facilities and impact fees. Do you foresee the county having both? Or can we accomplish the same thing by having money going towards parks and other needs for the county when growth happens?
Yeah, it depends on how you would structure your adequate public facilities ordinance, because the impact fees are kind of prescribed by state statute. So if you were going to do both, as our consultants read out to us about a year ago, maybe a little bit beyond that, you can structure your APFOs to not necessarily include funding or a fee or anything like that. It can be time-limited planning commission decisions, things like that, that are based on the facilities that are available. Maybe you pause a decision until that facility that's needed is available. Doesn't necessarily have to include a fee. It could include a fee. So how all those things are layered are going to depend on whether or not you already have an impact fee, and then on the back end, how you construct your APFO to accommodate.
Do you all feel like that's something we should consider?
It's definitely in the strategic plan to evaluate.
That's right. It's one of the initiatives, and Jonathan is helping lead that goal. And obviously, when council's ready to prioritize that initiative, we'll look at it. We do have current priorities coming out of that goal, and the planning and zoning committee is busy as we were today talking about the rural zoning project.
Would that come from planning and zoning or F&O?
I think that's completely up to y'all when you send the charge, but it is currently in our planning related strategic plan goal. So that's how we're thinking about it. What committee? That's up to y'all.
Yeah.
Just so I'm clear on the generalities of the impact fees, so whether it's adequate public facilities or simply an impact fee, those things, I mean, are we restricted to unincorporated areas even if it is an item that's exclusively within the counties? For instance, like animal control facilities. Is that something, what are you limited by with your general impact fees? Obviously, we've got the list here, the parks, the libraries, I mean, to my knowledge, the county is the only one that does the libraries. Is that something that if you were to assert an impact fee, would it be countywide or would it only be in an unincorporated?
You can construct all the impact fees by service area, and the county's done that with the Fort Mill School District being a service area, and the Clover School District being a service area. So if you wanted to build a facility that's only going to serve a service area, it would make sense to have the fee not apply countywide if your CIP is for, you know, a facility in a specific location that's only going to serve a certain region of the county residents. So it depends on what the facility might be, and if municipal users are going to be there. If it is going to be a joint venture with municipal residents and county residents, an IGA is probably an intergovernmental agreement, probably something that will be necessary for the process. But yeah, there is an opportunity to have a fee that could be collected countywide, and the impact fee ordinance is specific to new development, so they're all going to be tied to building permits, so that's where that IGA comes in.
Have staff even, I know that you need experts to do this, but have you even calculated, is there, I mean, to this point, and I think Watts is trying to get to it, at some point you get exhaustion and you start building in way too much of these impact fees that create problems for actually having homeowners who are buying a house and there's a huge amount that's not even going towards anything related to the house. It's to prepare for future amenities. Have y'all evaluated whether or not these things are in competition with one another?
You'd have to have a consultant study that type of trade-off. And a lot of the municipalities have impact fees beyond the school district impact fees. And really it's a trade-off of, well, do you want to have the new development pay for their proportionate share of the impact for new facilities, not existing ones, because you can't charge for existing. That's why it has to be tied to a CIP. So they're being charged impact fees for generating the need for that new facility. So the alternative, if you don't do that, is to just tax your residents, all of them, including the new residents.
Any other questions for staff?
Can you explain the work that the county does? So I'm looking at it, it says the projects are reviewed to make sure it's eligible before it'll be dispersed. It says, you know, they check, make sure the bond proceeds and all this stuff. Why wouldn't the school district have to be responsible for that? Why, I mean, if we're just collecting it and passing it on, then why aren't they handling all that? Why are we spending that extra effort?
So all of the who's responsible for what is outlined in the intergovernmental
Right.
agreement, and as part of that, the school districts reimburse the county for the work that we do to make sure we're assessing the fee and doing all the back end work on it.
So that's an agreement that was jointly, the county didn't say we've got to do this as part of this agreement, a part of collecting this fee. We didn't force them into it.
No, yeah, it's
So if they
mutual-
wanted to do it, they could do it on their own.
Part of it's when we collect the fees, when the permits are being issued, so it makes sense that we would be the ones doing that in certain situations. Kevin, you want to add to that?
Yeah, and I'll also touch on general bond distributions. We'll receive the bond proceeds and we distribute those to the school districts when they make the request. And if you talk to a bond attorney, because it's something I looked at when I first got to the county, you know, there's a certain level of expectation that we're just not blindly just passing money along. You know, we don't go drill down into various rabbit holes for this, that, and the other, but there is some checks done. And the auditors look at this to make sure we're making sure that it's compliant with the law. It's at a very high level. We're not going in there and auditing their books or anything like that, but there is a review done. You know, not really any different from the bond distributions we make to the other school districts. The only difference, you know, like when that study's done, there will be specific projects in there. Okay, so let's say you got school A, B, and C. Well, they send us receipts for school F. You go, hey, it's not in the project, it's gotta be in the plan. That was evaluated to come up with this cost. It's that type of evaluation, if that makes sense. We're not going down and, did you follow procurement practices? Is this the best price you could have got for this or that? So when I say high level.
My guess is if members of council wanted this to be reviewed, adequate public facilities compared to impact of combining it, this would not be a good time to do it, considering the work that you all are doing with ag. And this goes back to what I said a couple months ago, that we'll hit a point where your workload's full, your department's workload's full, we have something we want to do, it gets added to a list, and when something else gets checked off the list, this one potentially moves up.
That's right, and it's a 3-year plan, and so I do think our planning team's working very hard on the rural zoning project.
Yes.
And this would be an additional add at this point, I don't think would be.
Yeah, exactly.
timely.
Yep.
And since it was just mentioned, I do want to plug, at 8 p.m. you should all receive an email. It'll say it's coming from me, but it's a survey related to the rural zoning project. It's 12 questions, should take you 5-10 minutes, and we're leaving that open through the end of next week. It's important that we get all of your direct feedback. There's a lot of open-ended questions that give you the opportunity to express any concerns and priorities that you have. And it's important we get that feedback to make sure we're hitting the right target with any proposed changes.
When you say that's tomorrow morning?
It should be sent at 8 p.m. tonight.
Tonight?
If you don't receive it, let me know.
Good, thanks.
Any other questions? Do we have them?
So one other item real quick, y'all. So I know we love having our workshops here, but I sent y'all an email Friday. As y'all know, we have some opportunities when it comes to HVACs, and we're working hard to replace those that aren't functioning well. This building is one of those, and also the planning building is another. So starting in mid-March, March 17th, this building and all the employees in it will be at Government Center, as well as our planning department. And so we'll be kicking off both of those projects. We're going to start spreading that word tomorrow in press releases and a bunch of different media outlets and mediums. So you'll see that out there. If people have questions, please make sure they reach out to Kevin or I, and we're happy to talk through it. But there's the potential we could have the March workshop here, but you'll see on your agenda, the budget calendar is getting updated because we're gonna have to have the budget workshop at council chambers. So we'll be moving out of this building here in the spring.
How long they estimating that work?
I'll let Kevin answer that.
All right, Kevin.
In Heckle, remember there's various pods that are in Heckle.
Yeah.
Each pod's gonna take about 2 to 3 months to get done. My hope being as they move along, this is the first one they're doing, they'll go a little quicker. Planning, we're looking at 5 to 8 months to get that work done.
It's a major project.
Thank you.
One thing that I think would help with this impact fee question that we're gonna have in March is if you can please, I don't know, I haven't watched the planning commission meeting. If you can, they've asked questions and what responses, that may help at least prepare council for that. I mean, we obviously have this document, if there's some other documents to get us ahead of that, that would be helpful.
Okay.
Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.
Thank you.